All right, we're here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. I got some of the characters here behind me. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of non-spoiler stuff, and then we're going to get into the spoilers. I don't want to make two separate videos. So, non-spoilers, my biggest takeaway from this is that, in my opinion, this is unlike any superhero movie we've ever had. And when I say that, there are going to be people that come up and say, oh, well, it's like this one, and it's like this one, and it's like... I'm not saying that there's no similarities, but I truly think that this is an experience in the theater watching a superhero film that I've never had before. Very unique. And I don't want to say much more than that in this section. I greatly enjoyed it. As I say in many of my videos, my enjoyment of a film is largely dependent on my expectations of it. And despite my best efforts trying to rein it in, I had very high expectations of this film. And I would say that it exceeded my expectations in terms of an overall film. That's not to say that everything that I thought was going to happen did happen. I did make two official predictions, not here on the internet because I'm not a theorist channel, but in my conversations with other people, I had two things that I said that I thought for sure were going to happen, and I was correct on both of those things, but neither of them happened the way that I expected them to, so that's was very good. But there were other things that I thought would happen that didn't, so there are definitely things that I would have added if I got my way, and things that I would have taken out, and things that I would have changed, and I'm going to get into all of that. So I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was very, very, very good. After I have some time to process it and hear what other people had to say about it, I look forward to seeing it again. But I wanted to make my own video before I heard other people's thoughts about it. So, big recommendation from me. That's going to end the non-spoiler section. So there will be spoilers from here on out. You have been warned. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend you stop this video and then come back later if you want to see my thoughts on the rest of the movie. But spoilers moving forward. The two predictions that I made. Number one, we would have at least 4 Spider-Men in this movie. I'm going to give myself credit for that if we include Venom. I know he's not technically a Spider-Man, but he ticks a lot of the same boxes. I thought we would get some form of Miles Morales. We got an allusion to him, but not really a reference of it, nothing definitive that he's in this universe. But I'm going to count Venom as the 4th Spider-Man, and I'm gonna claim that victory. The other thing, which was not my, I was not the first one that I heard it from someone else, and I said yes, I think that's going to happen. Was when we saw in the trailer that MJ was falling, and Peter was having trouble reaching her. The idea that Andrew Garfield would be the one to catch her. I stuck to that, and I was like, that's definitely going to be what's going to happen. And it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen, but it still happened. So, of my 2 official predictions, I nailed them. I didn't nail them. I was technically correct if you skew the rules a little bit. So that's really great. I was very aware of the Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox rumors going into this, but I had completely forgotten about it by the time the movie started, until everyone kept mentioning the word lawyer a bunch. And then I was like, oh, right, he's going to be in this. I was kind of surprised at how early into the film that they showed him. Not that I was disappointed by that, but I kind of thought he would be more of a reveal later. And since they showed him so early as Matt Murdock, I was expecting a Daredevil appearance by the end of the film. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would have added, because there is no Daredevil in this film. And you don't even have to put him with Spider-Man. You could do a very, very short snippet while all the Spider-Men are at the Statue of Liberty and these villains just keep coming and just keep coming. You could do a very short snippet where we see Daredevil beating up some guy in the street and Green Goblin flies overhead and he just kind of turns and looks, and then we follow Goblin from that point on. Could have been that easy. And you could have moved on. But I'm going to trust that they are saving that for a bigger Daredevil debut later on. I was also surprised that Mysterio was not really a factor in this movie. We have these clashing ideologies of people that say Mysterio was right versus Spider-Man supporters, but I was not and still am not convinced that Mysterio is actually dead. But I've been saying since Far From Home came out that even if Quentin Beck is dead, the Mysterio program is still active and still out there. And so I'm surprised that none of that came up, at least not that we know of. Maybe something will be revealed later to have been some work of Mysterio. Very similarly, we got the big reveal that Nick Fury and Maria Hill were Skrulls throughout the entirety of Far From Home. And we got no follow-up with that at all. And I was trying to think, and I should know, but I don't. I don't think there's been a film since Far From Home to continue any plot threads after Far From Home until this movie. I realize that's a very confusing sentence, but what I mean by that is every MCU film that we've gotten since Spider-Man Far From Home, I'm confusing the titles, has either been a prequel like Black Widow or something completely unrelated like The Eternals and Shang-Chi. And so we haven't had any answers to the questions that Far From Home brought up, like where is Nick Fury? What's going on with that? And I think a lot of that stuff is going to be Disney Plus releases, and maybe some of it, I know there's been delays because of COVID, so maybe some of those questions would have been answered, and I know they're rearranging stuff right now. But still, it's kind of unique that we've got 2 Spider-Man films in a row that are kind of continuing the story with nothing else in between. And I apologize if you can hear my dogs in the background. They're making some strange noises. And this film picks up right at the end of Far From Home. It's almost like an Iron Man 2 situation where we hear dialogue from the first film over the credits, not the credits, the logos of this film, and then we pick up right away and then go on from there. So I had just watched Far From Home today, so I was thinking as the movie started, oh, good thing I rewatched this. This is going to be important to remember details of what happens. But not really. Like I said, we get some mentions of Mysterio, but it doesn't play a big part. We see MJ wearing the broken Black Dahlia necklace. So that's another little callback to that. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that you need to have remembered from Far From Home, which I guess is probably a good thing. I did notice that the news team at, what is it, Midtown? I should know the name of Spider-Man's school. I don't. Whatever his school is, the news team that Betty Brant reports for, seems to have stepped up their game between films, because in Far From Home they were poorly edited videos with Comic Sans title screens, and it was intentionally bad, and now it looks almost like legit reporting. So that was interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yeah, so biggest thing I would add is just a little bit of Daredevil. I don't think there's anything that I would take out, except for the weird trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I didn't like it when they put a trailer at the end of Captain America: The First Avenger, and I don't like it here, and this feels like less of a trailer and more of an extended look, whatever, but it's a trailer. And I don't know, I was sitting there through the credits. This is stupid, but what I was hoping for, not necessarily in the post-credits, but something in the movie that I was hoping for, was to have the J. Jonah Jameson from the Raimi films interact with the J. Jonah Jameson from this universe. And just what, because the one from this universe is on this weird .net website. He's a conspiracy theorist, doesn't have the following, that OG JJJ had. And I would have just loved to see J.K. Simmons rip into J.K. Simmons about what a horrible reporter he is, and like not necessarily disagree with him about Spider-Man, but just be like, you're terrible at this, you know. That would have been hilarious. But it was not meant to be. But yeah, the other Spider-Man coming in, I thought that would be in the middle of a battle, right as bad things are about to happen. They show up, they pop in, they save the day. I was not expecting at all for them to just kind of pop in with Ned and MJ. I don't dislike how they did it at all. That is just not at all what I was expecting. But they had some really, really good moments between those three. I like how much Andrew Garfield is willing to poke fun at himself. And it's just, oh man, that was so good. And it's not on the scale of something like Avengers Infinity War or Endgame in terms of all the stuff that's been building up. But still, it plays on these emotions that have been going, MCU started in 2008, right? So Infinity War, Endgame, that connected back to 2008. But now we're going back to 2002. And like, with me, I was 11 years old in 2002, right? And that's like right when this craze was starting with Spider-Man. I know Spider-Man wasn't the first, that's not what I'm saying. But like, that's what started this modern blockbuster craze of superhero movies. And so to extend that nostalgia back, and it's one of those things that like younger kids just aren't going to get it, right? They might enjoy it still, but they don't have the history of the connection with the material to be able to comprehend it in the same way that someone that's old enough to remember seeing the first ones in theaters do. And there are certainly, like Star Wars films, there are people older than me that have different feelings than I possibly could because they have those memories that I could never have. So I'm not saying I'm special, I'm just saying it's different. It's different depending on your context. I feel like I had more specifics I wanted to say. I didn't take any notes because I was at a very crowded theater. For the most part, they were pretty respectful. There was one lady who felt the need to say every thought that she had out loud leading up to the movie and during the credits. But during the movie, it was pretty good. Pretty good. Confirmed that Ned's last name is Leeds. That's something that people have been debating for a long time because they never, I don't think, before now, specified that it was Leeds. And so I had seen some theories that perhaps he was going to be doing some hobgobbling in this, or a different version of him might be. And we got a little kind of reference when he was talking with Tobey Maguire about, my best friend died in my arms after he tried to kill me, and he was like, I'll never turn evil and try to kill you. I do think that was a nod toward the fact that he is Hobgoblin in some universes. And I couldn't tell when Peter goes to see MJ at the end. I was really worried at first that they were going to have MJ and Ned be together. And not that I have like a problem with that, but it seems like the easy wrench to throw into it. And I can't tell if they were or were not. I don't think they hinted at it overtly, but they also didn't, definitively say that's not what was happening. But I think it's a stronger emotion when Peter doesn't have a reason to not say anything. He just sees what their lives are like without him. He sees the cut, which it seems silly because it's such a small cut. If it was a more serious injury, I could understand, but he sees that he puts them in danger. He's heard what these other Spider-Men have said, and what Doctor Strange had said, and so he makes the sacrifice, he makes the choice to not act on anything, at least not at that point in time. So I don't know that I like that, but I think it's a strong emotion that I'm interested to see where it goes. One more little thing that I would add is when he goes and gets his apartment at the end, which like isn't he only 16? Can 16-year-olds have their own apartment? Does he have fake documents? I don't understand what's happening there. Regardless, that's beside the point. I wish that would have been Mr. Ditkovich or Ursula Ditkovich as the landlord. That would have been that would have been perfect. But We can't get everything that we want. The Venom post credits, for a minute, I was like, was this whole thing just another troll that they did? Where they used the post credits from Venom to bring him into the MCU, and then the post credits from this to take him back out. And I was like, wow, nothing happened. There that goes. But then we do see the little bit of symbiote that gets left behind, which, how does that happen? It's magic. It shouldn't be overcome by some dripping, but whatever. We've now got the black goo alien that Toby was talking about. We've now got symbiotes in the MCU, so we'll see what happens with that. But that just would have been so funny if it was just another troll, like Quicksilver on WandaVision. I like the trolling. I don't like when they lie, like they did with Mandarin in Iron Man 3, but I do like when they set things up and lead us to make assumptions, and then they're like, well, you shouldn't have made all those assumptions then, shouldn't you? I think I get on board with a little of that stuff. But yeah, a lot of thoughts, a lot still left to process. I guess I should explain what I said with how it's unlike any superhero movie I've ever seen. What I mean by that is the construct of who are the villains and who are the heroes. I know that's been played with and toyed with before, but we have characters in this that are clearly the heroes and the villains. And, I hate to say, oh, it turns it on its head, because again, that's been done. But, I don't know, just seeing it with characters of this caliber in a movie of this scale is new, at least to me. So the idea of Doc Ock going back and forth, and then when he comes back at the end, you think that he's evil, but he's not. He's still good. And Flint Marko kind of going back and forth because he doesn't really care about doing what's right. He's just being selfish, like he always has been. And the duality of Norman Osborn, and just putting all those characters together and having this big swaying back and forth. And then Doctor Strange is kind of like the Professor X of these movies, where it's like he's willing to do horrible things for the greater good. And it's like, we can understand that it's for a greater good, but there's still horrible things. And Peter just being like, no, I can't do that, right? And it's a lot. It's a lot to process. And it's just, when they were going through and crossing them off the list, if we're going to fix this person and we're going to fix this person, earlier in the film, not at the final battle, I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen this before. We always, not always, but it's not uncommon to see the heroes try to help the villain or offer to help the villain. But here, they're like, he's actually doing it. It was kind of weird, though, because he was kind of forcing it on them. And I'm like, in another universe, this would be the mutant cure story, right? This is X-Men 3. You're forcing these fixes on people that don't want the fixes. And yeah, it's a little different because these people are criminals that are using things for criminal activity, and it's not, at least not for all of them, it's not biological. For some of them, I guess it is. But it's not natural. Whereas with mutants, that's how they're born. That's literally who they are. So I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I'm saying there's a question there. Right? Peter was doing what was right, but was it? Or was it, like May brought up, was it what was best for him? What was easiest for him? Speaking of May, did not see that coming. That was a little mini roller coaster on its own, because we see her get knocked down. We see her down on the ground. The Goblin makes some comments, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they really going to kill Aunt May? And then I'm like, they're probably going to do another fake out death like they always do, right? And then a moment later, she's up and she's talking and she seems fine. I was like, okay, yeah, they're not going to kill Aunt May. And then the pow, they got me, and I'm like, wow, they really, okay. So yeah, really pushing and pulling with my expectations throughout the whole movie. Really gonna enjoy watching it again. I like the suit at the end. My opinion on that might change if we see it in daytime and not dark time. But at least in that scene, I'm like, that looks pretty spiffy, I think. I loved the bit where they're talking with Toby about his natural web shooters. I could just go on and on. I'm not going to do that. You don't want to hear me ramble. Great movie. Not perfect, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to see it again. So those are my thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home. Let me know what you think, but that's at least everything I can think of right now. I'm sure I'll have other things that as soon as I stop this, I'm going to be like, oh, I forgot to say that. I might do a second video if I go watch it again, or if I hear some things that I feel are worth talking about. But for now, these are my thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.